It's time to meet Irelia, a fighter trained in the ancient dances of her province, levitating a host of deadly blades by her side in this Wild Rift guide. Patch 2.3 just arrived to League of Legends. Wild Rift, after a season full of teasers and the introduction of new champions and more skins into the mobile game, bringing more diversity to its expansive roster, with nearly 70 characters available at the moment. As part of this new update, 4 iconic champions from the realms of Runeterra will be making their debut in the Wild Rift, with 2 of these being now ready for pick along with the limited time event Broken Blades, Riven and Irelia. For this guide we will talk about Irelia, a fighter thrusted into the role of resistance leader and figurehead of Ionia, thanks to her training in the ancient dances of this nation that let her use graceful and careful movements to levitate a host of deadly blades to protect her homeland, giving her the nickname of the Blade Dancer. If you want to watch guide for Riven, then it's right the cards. Thanks to her passive, Ionian Fervor, whenever Irelia hits enemies with her abilities, she will gain additional stacking attack speed. At maximum stacks, she will also gain bonus damage on hit. Let's move on to her active skills. Her first skill is Bladasurge. Irelia will dash towards a target to attack it, healing herself on impact. If the target is marked or killed by Bladasurge, its cooldown will restart. Next, her second skill, Defiant Dance. Irelia charges an attack that deals more damage the longer she charges it. She also takes reduced physical damage during the charge. Next, her third skill, Flawless Duet. Irelia sends 2 blades which converge on each other. Enemies hit by them take damage, in addition to being stunned and marked. And her ultimate, Vanguard's Edge. Irelia throws a large number of blades that explode outward after hitting an enemy champion. Enemies hit by the blades will take damage and be marked. The blades then form a wall, dealing damage and slowing champions that pass through it. So, her ability order is level up Bladasurge at level 1, and then you will continue leveling Bladasurge until it's maxed. After that, you can start leveling up Flawless Duet followed by Defiant Dance. Now, let's know her strengths and weakness. So, her strengths. The damage she can deal with a fully stacked passive, along with her increased damage to shield mechanic, allows her to perform a lot of outplays if she uses her Bladasurge Q in a proper fashion, along with her passive. This can allow her to get rid of multiple enemies single-handedly. Her Flawless Duet E allows her to land a multi-man CC chain, which can be used as an extension of CC to already CC''D targets. It also allows her to Bladasurge Q to such targets without putting that ability on cooldown. This ability can be the difference between a one-team fight or a botched up all-in, depending on its use. Her ultimate, Vanguard's Edge, not only prevents the enemy from escaping quickly, but it also allows her teammates to land their own CC on the slowed trapped enemy team. It can act as a very effective initiation tool that scores her team a win. Now, her weakness. Prone to CC once she goes in. This is lethal for her if the enemy team has layered CC, or if she delves too deep into the enemy team and has no form of follow-up from her team. Her Bladasurge Q usage needs a lot of practice and awareness. If mistimed, that ability will go on cooldown, and she won't be able to do much if she isn't close to her target. This will also make her prone to CC. Landing her ultimate, Vanguard's Edge, on ranged carries can be a grueling task, especially if the enemy has some form of dash. Once her ultimate, Vanguard's Edge, is down, her all-in potential goes down by a bit as the enemy can kite her. So, now let's look at her runes, builds and spells. When picking out Irelia's runes, these are the ones I feel fit her the best. Conqueror, then Brutal, then Bone Plating or choose Second Wind. Then Hunter Genius, Pack Hunter, or Sweet Tooth. These runes should meld well with Irelia's playstyle. You'll be able to optimize on her heavy damage attacks. When you need to start working with your teams, Pack Hunter can help quite a bit. However, the choice of going with Hunter Genius can be a good idea, especially if you use Irelia's abilities to defeat enemies efficiently. Being played in both the Baron and the mid lanes, her summoner spells are an easy selection for her aggressive playstyle and unmatchable mobility. Flash will make it so you can teleport out of the way from escaping enemies or use it to chase down a target that is trying to get away from you. It's a good ganking item that you can use to surprise foes from the jungle. With Ignite, you'll be able to deal a large chunk of damage to them, along with giving them grievous wounds, another lethal and harmful surprise. Now, for her builds. These are the 6 best items we're going to recommend you build on Irelia to optimize her kit and fluid basic attacks. These are some of the preferred items we'd recommend for Irelia. Trinity Force will immediately increase your attack damage, attack speed, increase your ability haste, and provide you increased maximum health, which is also welcome. Next, you have Gluttonous Quicksilver, giving you added movement to move around the jungle and become a deadly force against the enemy, assisting allies. The third item will be Bloodthirster, giving you a base attack damage increase, along with more physical lifesteal to keep you alive whenever fighting any enemy champions or in the jungle. For increased attack speed and even more critical rate, Static Shiv provides energy stacks whenever you're moving, encouraging you to move across the map as much as possible before engaging an adversary. The final two items, Frozen Mallet and Starax Gauge, will give you beneficial support items. The first, Frozen Mallet, slows your enemies down, making escape difficult, with Starax Gauge increasing your base attack damage and giving you maximum health. If you didn't like this one, then try this. Blade of the Ruined King, then Trinity Force, then Starax Gauge, then Death's Dance, then Guardian Angel. And to complete her build, you can choose between the Plated Steel Caps or the Mercury's Treads, depending on the enemy comp, both with Teleport enchant. Now, let's look at her game plan now. It's very important to know how to play. So, early game. Irelia's early game is strong. Look for plays to get an early kill on the enemy laner. If you can get one kill or get an early health lead, you're going to have an easier time during the laning phase. Once you're level 6, play aggressive and look for a kill. You should try to get them low before committing to the all-in, but it should be plain sailing. Remember, your Bladisurge Q will reset if you use it on a low health minion. Keep a constant eye on the minion wave and look for these aggressive plays. Then for mid-game. After the laning phase has ended, go to a different lane or stay top and just split push. You're a good split pusher and can draw a lot of attention to your lane. If somebody tries to contest your split push, look to fight them. Irelia is a good duelist and will be able to fight most enemies who try to stop her. While you're a champion that is usually sent to split push, you might need to group with your team if the enemy is trying to force something. Be prepared to rotate around the map and help them fight. For late game. In the late game, continue to split push if your team isn't at risk of dying or getting caught out. If your team is going to get caught out or if the game isn't one-sided, you need to group with your team to help them fight. Play on the side of the map that has the next major objective up so you can rotate to take it with your team. Alternatively, if you have teleport, you can go to the bot side of the map and use it to get to your team. Tips for Irelia's playstyle. Irelia is a champion known for her great speed when attacking and moving towards the enemy thanks to the power of her dozens of blades, which gives her incomparable dexterity when facing a single opponent as well as against an entire team at the same time. The effectiveness of Irelia's abilities will depend a lot on how you handle the last hits against minions, since these will give you a window of opportunity to maximize the stacks of her passive and reach the best possible damage potential. For this, try to use her Bladisurge on the minions about to fall as soon as you notice it is possible to eliminate them. At all moments, try to check the amount of life remaining from the others around you so you can connect a streak with all of these, allowing you to get all the necessary stacks faster. Once you have them, which you will notice by the brilliant effect of her blades, it is time to start attacking the enemy. Whenever you are within range, use your flawless duet so that you can take unsuspecting enemies by surprise and subdue them with basic attacks that will break any shield they activate easily. In case you have the opportunity to finish some with low HP or you see a team fight close to you, do not hesitate to use the Vanguard's edges. It will leave your opponents defenseless in addition to cutting them off with a good slowdown, leaving them to your mercy to slice them with your attacks or those of your allies. Finally, in case you find yourself cornered or you simply want to finish off someone from a distance, you will have the Defiant Dance at hand that allows you to channel a charged attack, giving you a damage reduction, in addition to making you invulnerable to crowd control effects. Using Irelia to perfection can take some time given the speed of her abilities, however once you have her mastered, you will be able to kill any opponent before they can even blink. Now, let's look at her counters. Akali is of extreme threat to Irelia. Her Q spam and high base damage make her quite annoying. You have to play passive early and let her crash the wave into your tower, or you have to be very aggressive at LVL1 and look to stack your passive. I recommend the first option if you are new to Irelia. Start E and be passive. Once you have passive stacked and it's pushing back, look for fights as you will typically win with full passive level 2. After level 3 her kiting potential and base damage is insane, so you will have to only look for all-ins if her shroud is down and you are over 75% horsepower. Try to use minions to stop her from kiting you so much and rush a Negatron cloak if you are struggling. After 6 she tends to crush you hard if she lands her ult, but you can avoid it. If you can manage to stay healthy after she uses her shroud you can all in her as your damage is more consistent and comes out faster, however do keep in mind she can easily one-shot you if you miss anything and she hits her ult. Try moving adjacent to her to avoid her Qs also. Once you get bot you will win all ins, but you absolutely will need minions for the healing and outplay potential since she can keep up with a gunblade. Next is Wukong, who is also an extreme threat. This matchup is pretty annoying and unforgiving, however you can still beat him. Start E and stun him in your minion wave, as he will look to jump you whenever possible. Let it crash to your tower, and when it starts pushing back look for fights with your stacked passive. You have to land your E to win, don't worry too much about him clone jumping to avoid your E, most of the time you will clip him as he is dashing through, and you get 2 Q marks, pretty sweet. You should win especially if you are LVL3 when he is LVL2, which is the whole point of his passive strat LVL1. Try to W when he dashes in as they almost always dash and auto Q, so if you W all of this you reduce a lot of damage. Post 6 try to avoid being between 2 clones as he will maximize his ult damage that way and use minions to kite out his ult if possible. Do not Q him while he is ulting as it will cancel your Q, and make sure you land all of your abilities when going for an all-in and start with passive stacked. And her next threat is Fiora. Avoid fighting her at LVL1 since you won't have passive and her Q destroys you early on, however, don't be afraid to use the minions to your advantage if she is overly aggressive. Start E and let her push you in. E her after she autos Q you so that your creeps target her. Once it pushes to tower stack your passive and look for fights if you have a level over her. Use your Q to avoid her parry or your flash if you don't have low HP minions around you. Rule of thumb in this lane is, if you start a fight with full passive and full HP and you have low horsepower minions, you win if you dodge her W. It is easier after level 6 since they almost always parry the E, making her W very predictable. As long as you have 1 Q mark on her, you will typically win if you start the fight with 5 stacks and have avoided her W. Avoid fighting her after 2+ items and less ahead since it's really hard to outdamage her if she has Tabi. Rush executioners and look for fights ASAP once you have your bot if the lane is going even. And here are some combos.